today's video, we are going to talk about the 5 practices that I use every year to plan my perfect year. Hi guys, my name's Ev and I create YouTube videos about the workflows, the practices, and the mindsets of being a better creator and a better human in life. So these are 5 practices that I do every year that help me to be intentional, that help me to be really deliberate, that help me to think through how I want to live my life in the next 12 months. I'm not a huge goals person, so there's a lot more intentions and practices rather than like I want to get from here to there, because what I believe is that everything that you do happens on the daily. So yeah, I might be able to put a huge goal out there, but that's really, for me, it's meaningless unless I'm doing things every single day to get myself to that place. Okay, so practice number 1 is I choose a word of the year. I've been doing this, I think, for like 6 or 7 years now. Basically, I choose a word that reflects how I want to be in the new year. You know, how I come up with these words is I usually just brainstorm a whole lot of things. I'm the kind of person who I'm doing a lot of thinking kind of underneath the surface. And so I'll start thinking about my word of the year around September, October. And I'll just start to think like, what's coming up for me? How do I want to show up in the new year? Who do I want to be? And who do I want to become? So my word for the year in 2021 was high vibe. And for me, that really meant that I wanted to bring the energy everywhere I went. In every encounter, I wanted to be the person who showed up with all the intention and all the energy that she could, that could light up a room or light up a Zoom or light up, your feed or wherever it was. Really tried to live that throughout the year through the encounters that I had, even through 4 months of lockdown here in Sydney, over 100 days of lockdown. I really hung on to that word. And I think that's the really cool thing about having a word of the year is that even when things don't go as planned, you still have that word that you can kind of anchor your year on. And I think that's the really important part to think about if you're going to choose a word of the year, is to treat it like an anchor. Here in Australia, we have a lot of beaches. And so at our beaches, if you ever come here, swim between the flags. They're red and yellow flags, and they're the safest place on the beach. But what will happen is sometimes as you will start to swim out, and the horizon is really never ending. And so if you just keep going, but you don't look back at the flags and look back at kind of those anchor points, you could potentially end up in a rip. You could potentially end up having to be rescued by surf lifesavers, or something even worse than that. And so I think for me, that word of the year is that point where I can just like quickly look back to the shore, see the flags and see, am I in between? Do I need to adjust my course? And that's really what the word of the year does. So it's really simple. Around about September, October, even now I'm still thinking, I still haven't locked it in. I've got some options, but I just start to brainstorm, who do I want to show up as? Who do I want to be in the new year? And so I start to think about those kind of words. Usually a pattern forms, and then I will go in and I'll kind of search around. So I'll go to like thesauruses and I'll search around the internet for some things. And so by by December 31st, I want to make sure that I've got something locked in. And then the key to this is to keep it front and center. So for me, that means I keep it as the home screen on my phone. So this year, the whole year, I've had one home screen that says high vibe. And I just go into Canva and I create a little picture. I choose a picture that to me means high vibe. And so I have that there in front of me. I also, in my Notion workspace, like in my homepage, I always have word of the year, high vibe. And then if you're like a printed person, then you might want to have that as a print version for yourself. So that's the first practice, it's choosing a word of the year. Okay, practice number 2 is creating a vision board. So once I have a word of the year, I I'm a very visual person. So I want to go out and choose some visuals that I really think is going to represent how I want to show up with that word or in that year. So I usually create my vision board in Procreate because I'm a fairly creative person, and I find it's not too hard to kind of like make a collage out of all the ways that I feel I want to show up kind of with that word. So for me this year was high vibe. So I might show my vision board for this year, so just so you can see kind of what that looks like. It doesn't have to be this creative. All we're looking for is a whole lot of photos that represent and really make it visual to you what or how you're going to show up in the year, kind of according to that word of the year. Okay, so I do this one in Procreate. So I do have a blog post on my website that you can go to, and you can follow the instructions for creating a Procreate one. But I wouldn't overthink it. I wouldn't try to be too creative if you are not that kind of person. It can be as simple as grabbing a whole lot of visuals from the internet. Pinterest is great. Google search, images, all of that, and find things that really resonate with you. So whether that's images, I use quotes as well. So I try and find some quotes that really inspire me or might have inspired that word. And you might just create like a Notion database. It's like vision board, which I do have in the Notion template that I'm going to share with you. You know, it can be as simple as that, or it can be your own masterful creation. Okay, so practice number 3 for me is an interesting one. And so it's basically visualizing a perfect day in my life. So not like a holiday day, but like a real day. What do I want that to look like? And so you'll start to see a theme here that this isn't normal kind of goal setting. This is more like really showing up with an intention. It's funny that I look back, like actually today, on my day and this week, is that I'm actually in my head, those days that I planned are starting to show up, and they're starting to be how I want to show up every day. You know, I start pretty early in the morning. I love my 5 a.m. Writing times. Like I spend an hour writing in the morning. I get started on work pretty early. I get to like take, you know, a nice lunch, hang out on my balcony. Like there's so many things that when I put it out there at the beginning of the year, like it's not like you change your whole day like on the 1st of January. Things take time. And so having kind of like your visualized day of how you would really love to spend a day, really, I think helps to kind of put it out there, whether you believe in this or not, put it out there into the universe. And I really believe the law of attraction does make it happen. All right, so that is practice number 3, visualize your day. Practice number 4 is what I call the more and less list. So it's really very simple. I take a piece of paper or a Notion screen or a note, wherever I am, and I have one list that says more, and I have one list that says less. And I basically brainstorm a whole lot of things that I want to do more of, and a whole lot of things that I want to do less of. And I really find it such a fun exercise. Like, you know, just looking back and taking stock of the year and going, okay, what is it that really held me back or didn't serve me in the way that I need to be served? I want to do less of that stuff. Again, it's not like January 1st where you turn up and you say to everyone, sorry guys, I'm not doing that anymore. It's that you want to do less of those things. So gradually throughout the year, you find ways to do less of the things that don't serve you, and you find ways to do more things that do serve you. And so you kind of have this more or less list. My last practice that I do for setting myself up for the perfect year is called my Becoming Goals and Practices. Now, if you've heard me talk about goals, you would know I'm not the typical goal setting person. You might see me on Twitter and think, oh, she must be so driven and that kind of thing. I'm not. I am on a whim. I will decide to do things. I don't necessarily have I don't like setting concrete kind of financial goals. I find that it is too much pressure for me. And I find that goals, unless you're really good at breaking them down, are things that you actually can't control. You can't control the outcome. You know, I could have said this year that my goal was to travel to 12 countries, but there's no travel, so I can't control that goal. But I could have had a goal that I want to be the kind of person who has new experiences every day. Or who chases after new experiences. That's the kind of goal that I can control because I can create practices around that. You know, I can say, well, if I can't travel to another country, I might be able to find, you know, a sneaky laneway in my city to discover, or a new restaurant, or a place that I haven't visited before. And so you start to think of ways that you can become that person who has new adventures all the time. So I basically write a whole lot of these becoming goals. Who do I want to become? Not, you know, I want to have 10,000 followers on Twitter, or I want to bank, you know, 100K this year. Those are not kind of goals that motivate me in any way. They may motivate you, and I think, like, if that is the case, then stick with your goal setting. But this is what works for me to really motivate me, and I feel like every day I get to move towards those goals. Let's say you want to become a writer. I'm the kind of person who writes. Okay, great. Well, I am becoming a writer. Very easy, right? And so what does a writer do? Well, they write. And so you might create a practice around writing every day, which is what I did this year. And so now I can say, you know, I'm not just becoming a writer, I'm a writer now. I'm a creator. And I'm really comfortable to say that because I practiced that all year. And so I choose a whole lot of things in a whole lot of different areas, and I create a becoming goal. So the kind of person that I'm becoming. And then I brainstorm a whole lot of practices that I can do that kind of person does. My word of the year is high vibe. And so everything filters down through this. So the word of the year filters down into the vision board. That filters down into the way that I want to show up every day, like visualizing my day, the things that I want to do more or less of, and then it filters all the way down into these becoming goals. So now guys, I do have a free template available for you to download and design your perfect year. It has these 5 practices in it. It's been updated for 2022, so you can brainstorm your word of the year, you can create your vision board, and then you can actually link your vision board. If you create it here in the template, you can link it anywhere within your Notion workspace if you use Notion. It's got a link to visualize your day. It's got more or less lists, and then it's got these whole becoming goals and practices in it. So if you are interested, please go and download the free template. So guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different, not so much kind of jumping into the tools, but really talking about some of the practices that I use to design my perfect year, and I hope that it has sparked something in you. So guys, if you liked this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and you subscribe to the channel, and go and share it with someone who you think really would love to set themselves up for a really great 2022. And I will see you in the next video.